Hey guys, welcome back to another Crimson Moon Battle Report. We're going to be playing some Warhammer Quest Lost Relics, a game released by Games Workshop a few years ago. This game is a 1 to 4 player game. It is just me playing, so I'm going to be using 2 of the Stormcast Eternals, which would be Calthea Zandire and Doraz Giantfell. We're going to be playing Adventure 1 into the Hoard, which is in the actual game rulebook. There is 12 different adventures. You can play the missions individually if that's what you're wishing, or you can actually play it in sequence so that you can get the full story of what's going on with the Stormcast Eternals. So the objective for this scenario will be one of the Stormcast Eternals having to at least exit out through here, and our spawning will be here, or setup I should say, and we do have 1 treasure chest that we can interact with in this scenario. Our creatures will be spawning, well, not spawning, but they'll be set up in these areas as well as this one as well. For our adventure phase, we will be spawning death rattle skeletons up to a max of 6. So for this game, I only have 5 painted, so I'm just going to limit to 5. Unfortunately, I couldn't get that last one finished. So the max that I'll be able to put out is 5. But if at any time that there is less than 5, I will spawn 1 during the adventure phase, and they will be able to attack. And we will do a quick rundown of anatomy of a card. We have the name of the Stormcast Eternals. We have our dice pool. We have our attack actions that we can do. We have our special actions that each Stormcast Eternal can do. Then we have our simple actions that we have right over here in this bar. If I can get this to focus, we can kind of actually take a look to see what it looks like. Come on, focus. It's not really working out with me. Anyway, we have our wound counter, and we also have our resilience right over here in this spot. Now we go to our dice phase. Now for your dice phase, you're going to be taking your dice and you're going to be rolling them. And then whatever you roll, you're going to be setting those up in your dice pool here. And these dice you can use to do different actions. You can move, you can interact, you can heal yourself, or what they say, what they call rest. You can do your special ability. Now, a lot of these you can do as a basic action, or if you meet or exceed those certain numbers that you see right beside, like for example here, broadsword, it says 5+. Whenever you exceed or meet that number, that means that action is going to be inspired. So, and what that means is, for attacks, your first number on your card here, on your first attack, that means that it is a basic hit. If you have an inspired attack, then you do the additional attack, the additional damage, which would be 3. So you would do 3 damage if it's inspired, or 1 if you're just doing a basic regular attack that doesn't exceed that number. Same thing goes for her special ability, Blaze of Light, on a 6+. If you exceed that 6+, which of course you're not going to exceed it because on a 6, it's as high as you're going to go on a D6. So on a 6, she's going to get the inspired effect as well as this effect. If you're just using it as a basic, then that means that you're only going to get this top part and not the inspired effect, because you did not make an inspired Blaze of Light. Same thing goes with if you're moving. If you spend a die that shows 4 or better, that means it's going to be an inspired move. An inspired move means that you can ignore tiles that have more characters on that tile. So for example, this tile has a 3 here, and then or actually it's a 4, and then you have this tile that has a 4, that has a 3. This means that you can only have that many models in that particular tile. So if, let's say, Calthea was here and there was already 3 models here, she would not be able to enter it because of the fact that that tile is full. However, if it's an inspired, you can choose to either move through it, or you can choose to move in it and push somebody out of that tile. So there's a lot of handy ways to use the inspired effect for moving as well as attacks, because you'll be doing more damage. You'll be able to do more abilities with your movement. Also in resting, whenever you rest and you exceed that number, you'll be healing 2 points of damage rather than just the 1 point of damage if you choose to rest. And the only way you can rest is you have to have no enemies adjacent to you or in the same board as you. Now, you're probably wondering, how do the monsters move? Well, the monsters actually react to every action that your hero takes. And every action is spending one of these dice. So, for example, let's say she is here and she wants to move. She would spend the die. I'm just going to put some of these creatures out here as an example. So if she moves, let's say she's going to move here. Now, each character can move up to 2 squares. So she's moving 1, 2. Now that's her action. Now the dungeon is going to take its action. So you would look on their card and you would choose one of the actions from their bar. So for example, here, the Death Rattle Skeleton, his first action would be to attack. If he can attack, he would move. And if he can't move, he's got his summoning. So he would summon another Death Rattle Skeleton as close as possible to the Stormcast Eternal. So that's pretty much how these the dungeon itself reacts to the heroes, and that's how the enemies move in this game. Now there is a way kind of to cheat that by doing what they call action chains. Now the way you start an action chain is, let's say this is a die roll that she rolled, and these are the dice that Dora has rolled. So she would be able to spend 1 die to move, or let's say she's here and he is here. She would be able to choose to either attack for 1 point of damage, or if she would want to move, she would do so. Now, since it is a 1, you can actually technically start a chain. So that means after the 1, you would spend a 2, so he could spend that 2, and a chain would start, and he could either move, or if he's in position to attack, he would attack. In this particular scene here, he would have to move because he is not in range of anybody's attack action, so he would spend 1, 2, and you can technically continue to move that chain as long as you continue that number. So 1, 2, you would spend the 3, and so forth, 4, 5. Now, some of the scenarios, they do give you bonus actions whenever you do chains like that. So for example, they're called destiny tokens, and this is what the destiny token would look like. It's a little sword with a little triangle. Once again, I apologize, my camera is not focusing very well, but anytime you do at least a 2-link combo, you would get a destiny token. Now, if you do it again, if you already have a destiny token, currently you don't gain another one. You only have the 1. So unless you've spent it, you would gain another destiny token. Now, there is ways that some of these characters cannot move. So like, for example, here, since Calthea is in combat with this Death Rattle, if you were to try to move, she couldn't, because she is considered to be engaged, because the enemy is considered engaged with you if they meet or exceed the amount of models that the Stormcasts are here. So if it was 2 Stormcasts here, they would not be engaged. However, if there's 1 or at least 2, she's considered engaged and she wouldn't be able to move. However, if you do a inspired move, you would be able to pretty much bum rush out of there because you're doing an inspirational move out of there. That is the only way around trying to get away from Death Rattle that pretty much have you locked up in combat. So what are destiny tokens? Destiny tokens, if you have one and you spend one of your dice, you can choose to spend a destiny token, and you can make that die into any number that you want. So you can technically make it into an inspirational attack, inspirational move, inspirational rest. So it's always handy to have these destiny tokens. So we have looked at 2 out of the 6 phases in this game. We've done the adventure phase, we've done the dice phase. Now the initiative phase, what we're gonna do is the game does come with these handy cards. Now, since we're only using 2 characters, you would shuffle these up. If you had all 4, you would shuffle all 4 cards up, and then what you would do is you would place them on the top. Here, let me move this box out of the way here. And starting from your left to your right, that is going to determine who is going to take the first initiative, who's going to go first. So that would be our initiative phase. Once we've established the initiative phase, then we go to our action phases, and that's when we're using our dice pool. We determine who is the first player, which would be Calthea. So she would activate first, and you would carry on doing your actions until you are out of dice. Once you finish your action phase, then you're going to be going to the leader phase. And the leader phase is your enemy. The leader card, the Death Rattle Warden, he has 2 different types of reactions whenever he can see a hero. This is the type of damage that he does. There is his command. If I can get this thing to focus, and then he has his leader ability. So you would be doing this during that leader phase. So this would say place 1 available Death Rattle skeleton in as close as possible to your hero. So basically he's just going to be summoning one of the Death Rattle as close as possible to one of the heroes that he has visibility to. So after your hero phase, you will have your recovery phase. Now, at any point in the game, your heroes have taken enough damage to be destroyed. For example, Doraz has 5 wounds. Once he's taken 5, you would flip him over to the wounded. If he takes another 5, that means he's going to be taken out of action. Now, there is a way for them to respawn. During your recovery phase, if one of your heroes is adjacent to a haven, now the mission will show you what square is an actual haven. The only problem is that you have to make sure that your hero is adjacent with no enemies around, so that way he can respawn at that haven location. For this mission, there isn't a haven, so if they're taken out, they're taken out. There's no way for them to come back. But there are certain missions that do have haven points in order for them to respawn. All right, so let's take it for a spin. This is the adventure phase. We have everything set up. We have our treasure chests. We have our minions all spawned, and we've placed our heroes in their starting location. Now we're gonna go to the initiative phase. We're just gonna flip these here. Just give it a couple of flips, and then we will determine who is going to take the first turn. So for example, here it will be Doraz going first with Calthea going second. So now let's go ahead and do our dice phase. So for Calthea, she's going to have a 3-4. And for Doraz, a 1-2 and a 1. So no inspirational stuff for him. So starting with Doraz, he's going to go ahead and move 1. So he will move 1, 2. He will get into this location here. Now he can start a chain. So he's going to go ahead and spin a 2. And he is going to go ahead and strike one of these skellies. Now it's only going to be, actually his hammer does 2 damage, so that means that he will be able to take out one of these Death Rattle skeletons, but that means that he is done. So now there's going to be a reaction for the enemy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move him up 2 spaces, since he will actually, he needs to have visibility. I completely forgot that in order for the enemies to react, they do have to have visibility to the hero. So I'm going to say his visibility is here, so he can't see. These two, they're blocked, so they can't react either. So he's just going to go in and attack. So he's going to do 1 point of damage to Doraz. So now Doraz is going to react, and he's going to spend his final die, and he's just going to smack and destroy him. And that means that his turn is going to be over. All right, so as a reaction to Doraz finishing his last final action, and since they don't have visibility, that means that we're going to go to the third action, which is going to be raise, or should I say summon, a death rattle. So a death rattle will be summoning as close as possible to the last hero that activated. So he's going to raise right there where Doraz is. And that's going to be the end of the turn for the dungeon. Okay, so now we are going to go with Calthea. So Calthea is actually going to spend a die, and she's going to go ahead and do her Blaze of Light. Now, it's not going to be inspired, so that means that when she inspires it, there can't be any shooting during her phase, but minions cannot react to any of her actions for this round. So that means that she's going to be able to move, so she's going to spend another die to move. So we will move here, 1, 2. Now, since they are not engaged because they actually outnumber him, she's going to move one more time, and she's going to spend her last die, and she's just going to move to get into this space here so that she can try and get whatever's in that chest. So that's going to be the end of the turn. So after that phase, they wouldn't have a reaction because of her ability. So now it's going to go to the leader phase. There is no leader for the villains, so we're just going to skip to the recovery phase. No one's damaged or dead, so we're just going to skip that. And now we're going to go right back to the initiative phase. So starting with the initiative phase, we're just going to flip these over. And it looks like it's just going to be Doraz one more time, followed by Calthea. So now let's get the dice. And oh, she's got some good dice. So she's got a 4, 6, and you don't have to put them like the way I'm doing. I just do it just to put them in order. And oh wow, geez. So he's gonna have 2 6s and a 5. Okay. So starting with Doraz, because it's his initiative, so he's going to strike. He's going to go ahead and smack that death rattle. So he's just going to crush him to pieces. Now it's going to go as a reaction. So nobody there, they can react, they can't see. So we're just going to spawn another Skelly. He will spawn right there. That's his reaction. So now we're going to go back to Doraz. And he's just going to go ahead. Actually, he's going to move to try and get some... some more action going on over here. You're not going to worry about that guy. So he's going to move 1, 2. And actually, that's only 1. So that means he's not going to be able to go in there. So he's going to be stuck there. But as a reaction, we're going to go ahead and kind of dogpile on Doraz. So this Skelly's going to move up in the same location. So he's going to have the 3 there. And this does have a 3. So that's the limit for that area. So that's going to be the end of the death rattle. So now it's going to go back to Doraz. Doraz is going to spend his last action. And he's going to make this into a 3 damage attack. And he's just going to crush another death rattle. Now, after attacking him, this death rattle is just going to strike, and he's going to smack Doraz for another point of damage. So that is the end of Doraz's turn. So now we're just going to go to Calthea. Calthea is going to spend a die, and she's just going to search. So in this particular scenario, there's nothing special for inspiring, so she's just going to draw a card. And she's going to get Tomb of Destinies. Now, when you draw a treasure, if for some reason she can't use it or she doesn't want it, you can technically pass it to any of the other Stormcast players. So this is the only time that you can do that. So for example, here, this looks like it's going to be a spell of some sort. So that would probably be good for her. So we'll probably just keep that for her. So with that treasure card, you can spend it to ignore one of the attacks on one of the monsters that attacks you. I had forgotten earlier, he did do a chain reaction himself, so that means that we would have gotten a destiny token. So we're going to grab one of these, and we're just going to put it on top, right on top of him, showing that he does have a destiny token. Okay, so since she searched, actually what I should have done is I should have done her light, so that way they wouldn't be able to react. So I completely forgot about that. So this Skelly is going to go ahead and react, and he's just going to, actually we're going to move him in. We're going to move him in as a reaction. So that means he's going to block off Doraz, so that this is going to be all occupied. So now it's going to go back to Calthea. So now she's going to move out. We're going to spend the 6. Actually, no, spend the 5. We're going to spend the 5 to move out. And yeah, why not? We'll move out. So that means that he's going to react. So he's going to strike her for 1 point of damage. So now as her final action, she's going to strike him. And it's going to be a 6. So she's going to use her broadsword. It's going to do 3 damage. And it's going to come crushing down on him. And as a final reaction from there, this Skelly is going to beat up on poor old Doraz. He's going to do another point of damage. So now he's going to be up to 3 wounds. So at the end of that turn, we've accomplished that. So that's no longer there. So now we're just going to go ahead and do our initiative one more time. So let's go ahead and flip these over. Now, of course, it probably would be a lot more fun having more players, more characters on the field. This is definitely just a real easy, quick game that you can play, even with your kids. I'm pretty sure your kids would have a blast playing this game. This time around, we have our initiative phase. So now let's go ahead and get our dice. So we're going to have our 3 dice. Let's go ahead and see what she gets. She's going to get a 1, a 2. I smell a combo coming, but she does have, we do have already an inspiration, or destiny token already, so we have to spend it before we can spend that. So that means we're going to have 2 5s for Doraz and a 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and go with Calthea because she is the first initiative. So she's going to spend 1 of her dice, and she's going to go ahead and use her lantern, so that way there will not be any reactions. So she's just going to move. Oh, actually, you know what? Actually, you know what she's going to do? We're going to spend a 5, and we're going to do a inspired move, and we're going to try and bull rush in here. We're going to push somebody out of the way, and that way she can be in that spot. So she's going to move 1, 2. We're going to push this guy out of the way. And then that means that these 2 are going to be in that location. Actually, I'm going to redo that. Before we do that, we're going to spend the 1. We're going to use the lantern, so that way there will be no reactions. Okay, so now as her second action, because she did her lantern, so there can't be any reaction, she's going to spend the 5 to go ahead and make it an inspired move, and she's going to do the bull rush. So she's going to move her 2. She's going to punk this guy out of the way, and she's going to move into this spot. So now, since she spent the 1, actually no, we spent the 5, and she wouldn't be able to do the chain action because she spent the 1, then she spent the 5. However, she did do her lantern, so that means that she would still be able to go ahead and strike before this death rattle would strike. However, her attack only does 1 point of damage, so we're just going to spend the 2, and this death rattle is going to take 1 point of damage. He's going to have 1 left. All right, as a reaction, this death rattle is just going to go ahead and strike, and he's going to do another point of damage to Doraz. So he is down to 1 wound remaining on his regular side. But now that he's done, now it's going to be Dorad's turn. So Dorad is going to go ahead and spend 1 die to go ahead and crush this skeleton to pieces. And then as a react, we're going to move this skelly in. Actually, you know what? We're gonna spawn. We're gonna go ahead and spawn another skelly in here, just to make it a little more complicated for him. And actually now, we can technically just end the game here. So he did roll 2 5s, so we're gonna spend a 5 to go ahead and do the inspirational move. So that means that he can actually just run right through this because they're not engaged because they're outnumbering him. So he's just going to move. All right, so when you do an inspired move, you can do a sprint, which allows you to move 3 spaces. You can do a evade, which is the one that allows you to ignore being engaged, or you can do the barge, which is what she did to push him out of this section so that she can come, I guess, barging in. So he's just going to spend his 1 die, and he's just going to do his evade. So he's going to move 1, 2, and that's going to successfully complete this mission, because all we needed to do was just get one of these Stormcast Eternals off of the field. And there you have it, guys. That is scenario 1 for Warhammer Quest Lost Relics. I'm gonna try and get some more of these skellies finished up, and maybe get some of the other characters finished up, so that we can continue doing these scenarios and see what the Stormcast Eternals are actually up to in this particular game. A lot of fun to play. If you're looking for something to play with your kids, this is definitely an easy game for them to learn. Warhammer Quest has always been a lot of fun to play. I don't know if you've ever tried Blackstone Fortress or Cursed City. Those are a little more in depth, a lot more stuff that you can do in those games compared to this one. This is kind of more like a early beginner test game for those type of games. But this is definitely a really good way to get some of your young ones into the game, or even yourself if you're wanting to learn more about Games Workshop stuff. This is definitely a good way to start off and playing their product. You get the minis that you can assemble and paint yourself. Of course, you only get the Stormcast Eternals, but a lot of these Death Rattle skeletons you can easily just order from either Games Workshop itself, or even online, eBay, Amazon. I will put a link down in the description below in case you want to check out the contents of what comes in the box. I did do an unboxing for this particular game. Hey guys, if you guys ain't following us on YouTube, make sure to give us a like and subscribe down below so you can check out other videos that we've put out, plus new videos that will be coming out very soon. Other than that, guys, that's it for this one. We really appreciate everything that you're doing for the channel, and continue to show us love. We will continue to try and pump out more videos just like this. Until then, keep rolling dice, and don't forget to always paint your walls crimson. Take care, guys.